I have an undergraduate associate's degree, and I ended up transferring to University of Kentucky to receive a political science degree. So at the time I was really interested in international relations and what was going on in the world. So I got a political science degree, and I got interested in criminal justice. So I went for a master's degree in forensic studies at Indiana University. You know, at the time I wanted to be a criminologist or in the criminal justice profession. And I started my career in criminal justice at the police academy in Miami, Florida. Well, that was my second job. It's all detailed in my resume. So I worked in that field for about 4 years, and then I switched over to human resources because at the time I felt like it was very, very male dominated, and I just wanted to get into a field where, you know, I'd have an opportunity to move up, because the majority of people were men in police departments and management positions, and there were very few women in management positions, except, you know, female employment law attorney and so forth. So I switched to human resources, and I ended up getting a job in county government. I moved up the hierarchy to management position, and then I became an HR director for the clerk of the circuit court. And I really love working in government because that was my background. But I'd always wanted to do what I'm doing now, which I've been doing for the past 22 years, coaching and teaching at a university, and, you know, running my consulting business. So while I was an HR director, I went and got another degree, because in order for me to teach at a university, I knew I had to have a college doctorate or PhD. And that's what I pursued for, it took me about 4 years. And I did my research on situational leadership because I really love the area of leadership. But anyway, so that's what got me to where I am today. And I formed my business. And I've been doing my business for about 22 years, and started out in law enforcement testing. And then I expanded the work I was able to provide to people, the services I was able to provide to service to people. And, you know, I've been working 39 years, and I really have no plans on retiring for several years, because I love what I do. So the 3 areas of my business are coaching for promotional testing for law enforcement, helping people all over the United States who are going up for promotion to different ranks in police departments. And I have 2 affiliates I work with. And then I also do expert witness services. And you can go to my website if you want to look at more of what we do, ljcraig.com. And then organizational development projects like organizational audits and leadership training and other projects like that. Well, I should also mention my position at FAU. That's extremely important, because the university offered me a full-time job, primarily because I have a consulting business. They offered me an adjunct position back in 2004. And then they offered me a full-time job and said I could still do my business. So that was great. And because I'm a practitioner. So, you know, that's basically my background. I've worked in a lot of different areas since I've been a consultant, public and private sector, and I love teaching, and I love the combination of the teaching and the consulting. Lucky I got to go to Thailand a couple times, 3 times to teach, and got a great experience there. And the Bahamas, Jamaica, and I've done work down there in the past. Did work for Sandals for about 6 or 7 years. You know, leadership training and leadership development for people. So I've been very lucky in terms of what I've been able to do, and most of it comes through word of mouth. You know, and you have to have a really nice website too. I had written a book called Mastering the Assessment Center, the Fast Track to Promotion. It was published in 2017, and it was for law enforcement professionals who were going up for promotion, who could practice, learn about the assessment center methodology, and read the exercises and practice the exercises by completing them on their own, and then going and looking at the assessor guide and seeing, based upon what they did, how well they thought that they did in the exercise. And that's you're not getting the real live coaching, but you're getting a book to read about the process and all these different exercises. And that book was unlike any other book in the market because I bought them all, and no other book in the market provides a 360-degree view of the assessment center, because I've done it all. And most of the people that have written these books are retired police that weren't in HR and had gone up through the promotional ranks and went through an assessment center and got promoted, and then they wrote a book about it. Well, my book is based on my HR background and having designed and developed and administered this stuff. So after I published that book, because my 2 affiliates, beat me over the head and said, you have to write this book because people around the country want another book. So I wrote it. And then I decided I needed to write a book for students, because what I found was lacking on the market was that I read the research and surveys and so forth. And I found that a lot of employers, say a lot, not the exact number, but the surveys are based on surveying hundreds or thousands of people, or based upon which company's doing it, that employees that they've hired or people they've interviewed lack the soft skills. Now, what the lay people refer to the innate abilities as, they refer to them as soft skills, when in fact the soft skills are actually adaptability, dealing with people, problem solving, problem analysis, collaboration, and so forth. And that's what I wrote my book on. So, we all have individual differences, and we're all strong or weak in one or more abilities. And I know that based on research. So I said, this is going to add to that, to the marketplace. As a result of COVID-19 and the changes that will continue to occur in globally, the skills are going to be the same, but for example, adaptability is going to become even more important than it is. And I have a chapter on adaptability. And I knew this before I did some research online, and there's videos out there, and there's people writing about it, and journals, and on the online newspapers. So that's why, another reason why this book's important. It's experiential. You learn about your soft skills through experiential exercises. You don't have to take a personality test by paying a company to take a test as an individual. I don't know what that would cost. It may cost less than buying the book. I don't know, but it's not going to be the same experience. You're just going to be asked a series of questions, and then they're going to score it. This is different. You get to read a scenario, and then you get to answer a lot of questions about it. And think through how you would handle that situation. The book, it's a book that defines not just what the abilities are in terms of my definition and what the research says about the abilities, but it goes beyond the textbooks that talk about judgment, decision making, and planning and organizing in terms of what companies have done. My book focuses on the individual and how they can use their abilities to be more successful at work. Okay. I think it has universal applicability because and that's noted in my introduction, because it's not just for college students, juniors and seniors in college, in schools of business. It's for anybody who wants to develop themselves. This book provides that, okay, more than what, and I know there's nothing on the market like this, okay, because the people that work in the assessment center arena, it's a very specialized area, even though there's companies that predominantly design, develop, implement, and score assessment center exercises for public and private sector, and it's been around for many years, and that's covered in my book too, the overview of assessment center methodology. So there's nothing on the market like it, and what I'm doing in this book is tapping into a person's abilities to the extent possible by having them read scenarios and then answer multiple choice questions that are designed similar to a situational interview, a situational judgment test, where you have five responses, A through E, and A is the best way to handle it, but B or C might be appropriate, but we haven't set up the scoring like that in the online version, because if you get it correct, if you get it 100% correct, you get a point. If you pick response C, you get half a point because that is also an okay way to handle the situation. It's not the best, but we haven't set it up like that with the technology, and I can't do that. It's something we could explore down the road, because organizations are using for selection are using situational judgment tests, because that way they can get more of a spread of test scores, because you're giving partial credit. I've gotten a lot of examples from students when I use this book for other classes, because they're asked in discussion questions, tell me about a time when you were dealing with a bully, or tell me about an ethical situation you dealt with, your experience and how you dealt with it. Well, in terms of the feedback from students, here are some examples of what they've said about the book. It includes valuable real-life office scenarios. It's a creative learning environment, because you're doing it online, and it's very creative. And you can also have your hard copy book. If I were the student, I would buy the book and the ebook, because if you buy the book, you also get the ebook. But if you buy the ebook version, you don't get the hard copy. People learned how critical poor judgment can cost a person their job. You can implement many things you learned at work in terms of how to handle these situations. They learned how they can apply their innate abilities to help them with their career. They learned how to make decisions under pressure. They learned about what is unethical and immoral behavior in the workplace. They realized the importance of judgment and decision making, how to use their abilities, how to make ethical and moral decisions based on the situation, and how vital that is to succeed. Also, how to deal with certain types of employees that are difficult, how leaders should make decisions, and that poor decisions can become good decisions, and that the reason for workplace problems is poor judgment skills. At the very beginning, and it's pretty detailed, but it only has about 36 questions. And if you go through it really quickly, then you're really not, in my opinion, doing a good job of evaluating yourself. And the more years of experience you have in the workplace, the better you're going to get to know yourself. And then if you're self-aware, which is part of emotional intelligence, you're going to be able to, in my opinion, evaluate yourself more critically. And just instead of saying, oh, I'm great, I'm most likely to do all this stuff, it summarizes a great deal of research which describes abilities and why organizations want employees who demonstrate the abilities. So there's a lot of research in there to back up why this is important. Huge reference list. Because we need to deal with fact-based evidence. Okay, that's what we need to do. I tell my students all the time, and in my kind of work I do, because I do expert witness work, you deal with fact-based evidence, not just innuendo and not true information. Each chapter covers a different ability. Most chapters have scenarios which increase in complexity and difficulty as you move up in the chapter number. Okay, the multiple choice questions, like I said before, they're the most efficient way to tap into or get a measure on a person's ability to the extent possible in an online system without having the person there live and videotape them and then score their performance and have, it's more efficient. And they do a lot of online tests like this where they actually use avatars. A person actually has to interact with an avatar, and the avatar comes in the room, you see a picture of the person talking, and then you're given multiple choice questions in terms of how should you respond to that person. And I've seen some of these live because I do a lot of coaching, and a lot of my clients in law enforcement have shared this information with me. told me how their testing process went, where they do large scale testing processes all over the country. Let's say for a federal agency, law enforcement position, they do testing huge. They have to test thousands of people, and they do it in different sites around the United States. And then from that, they go to the next phase. Scenarios actually took place. I wrote them. Of course, I didn't use anybody's name. And then other scenarios were adapted from, let's say, the Harvard Business Review, and it's stated in the book, and then a few Wall Street Journal articles. The rest of it took place, or I made it up partially based upon what took place. So it's not stuff that's BS. It has universal appeal. I think it's going to have even more universal appeal during this COVID-19, because this is going to be with us for several years. This is not going away, okay? And the world as we know it has changed. It's upside down. The job market has changed forever. The other issue is, and I didn't mention this, Ryan, is there's 40 million people who filed, close to 40 million people who filed unemployment claims just in the United States. Now it's an employer's market. So they're going to have the pick of the crop. They can pick and choose versus when it was very, very low unemployment. And you're going to have thousands and thousands of people applying for new jobs, jobs that are going to come up in the next year or two, and the other jobs so many of them are low skill and not high level jobs, because a lot of those jobs are being eliminated. And you've got artificial intelligence, you have to deal with working with robots. So this book is very timely. If you can't adapt to the workplace, the way it is now and because it's changed and what it's going to be like, and even beforehand, you're not going to be successful. Like, for example, you used to work, and there were some articles in Business Week about this, but you used to work where you came into the office every day and you sat next to people, and now you can't do that. So companies are sending people home, but they're allowing people to come to work in the office twice a week. They all have to sit 6 or 8 feet apart. You don't have your own desk anymore. You don't know who's going to be there. You're going to be interacting with people online, mostly your teammates and stuff. And that's been going on for years, the virtual team. For example, so many people getting out of college are people who have college degrees and lost their jobs at all different levels. And they're going to be competing with people who are younger and all different age groups. And they have this attitude and demeanor, which is part of your personality, that I'm too educated to do that type of work, or they take a lower level job because that's the only job they could get, and they're competing with people from different age groups. Oh, I think Kendall Hunt's a great company. I'm so proud to be part of Kendall Hunt. Things happen for a reason, I believe. There's very few coincidences in the world. You think it is, but it happens just when you need it to happen. I was with another company that was chasing after me for 3 years to publish with them, and I said no because I didn't want to write a textbook, and I'm not a tenure track faculty, so I wasn't interested in that. And you don't get credit for textbooks as much as you do journal articles. So you can become tenured. Well, that wasn't what I wanted to do. But anyway, I went with that company. I was disappointed with their platform. I don't want to mention the name. And Marla had contacted me, and it was like at the right time because I was looking to switch. And we talked and we met, and that was it. And we had lunch, and that was it. It's been a great experience. I love the platform. I love the customer service. I think that it's so aesthetically pleasing. Isn't that one of the things that I said about the platform? Oh yeah, the online features. Okay, the online quizzes, any changes that need to be made are made by your IT people. There's links to some of the reference citations, which is really cool, because then you see the reference citation, which I know is done on a lot of online platforms. This is probably not new to these learning management systems, but the links stand out, and you click and you can get right to the article that you may want to read more about. It's very user-friendly. It's aesthetically pleasing to the eye. And the fact that I am able to put an extensive reference list online for people to see if they want to go read some articles or, find out more about these topics, they can do that. But Kendall Hunt's been a great experience, and I'm really, pleased to be associated with you. We want to sell thousands of copies.